we're live.
Hey, everybody, and we are live, which is always a good thing at my age. Welcome, everybody. This is this.
And can expect a high of 81 degrees Fahrenheit.
Surrey, go shut up. Sorry, folks. I cannot figure out how to stop Surrey from giving me the local weather broadcast every day at 6:30, and I forget every day. And so I've had coaching calls, and now the show interrupted. So welcome once again to Fearless Flight Live, our weekly show with my team here, me, Capt Ron, and Dieter Staudinger, and Eric Larson, holding down the fort with me. This is the place, of course, that you come if you want to get over fear of flying, if you're afraid of flying, or if you know somebody who does, or if you just want to keep up on the industry and basically right now, what's going on in Boeing. That's pretty much dominating the airwaves right now. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Let me see if I can effortlessly, seamlessly share. Hopefully you can see that. Again, we welcome you, and we're up over 1,600 people, which is terrific for us. It's been a long climb, and we've been noticing that somebody's getting the word out there, because we get more and more people daily adding to the group, and we welcome all of you. If you aren't a member, please consider joining it. The link is up there on the screen, and when you join, drop in, leave us a message, leave a message for somebody else. Same thing for today. If you have a comment, please leave one, and let us know what you think. And if you got any questions, we value that. Tonight we're talking about if it's Boeing, we ain't going. We're going to talk about the Boeing mess right now a little bit. I've gotten several questions about people want to know whether they should fly on a piece of Boeing equipment. So Eric and I are going to lend our opinions, if not our expertise, to that. We got the next 201 live monthly group coaching webinar coming up on April 18th. And as always, we'll take your questions. First things first, this is the landing page. If you should decide you want to participate in our monthly Clear for Takeoff 101 online class. The next one's coming up this Sunday. And you can see, that's what you'll see when you get there, Sunday, the 7th of April. And we do it on the first Sunday of the month, typically. And it's a great class for anybody, whether you're a longstanding member of the Birds of the Feather, or even if you're enrolled in any of the courses, it's a great place to come and ask questions if you want. And it's free, so it's we hope it's priced right. So we'd like to see you. If you're not doing anything on Sunday, come and join us and have some fun. Let's start talking about this. I'm going to invite Eric to come in here and lend his 50 cents. This is the question that I've been getting for the last couple of weeks here with all the articles in the paper. There was a study done that concluded that the whole problem with the Boeing 737 MAX, and they've been looking at other problems inside of Boeing, other incidents. There's been a rash of incidents lately, and they've been looking at a study of speed versus quality. You want to comment on that, Eric? What that meant to you when you saw that?
Yeah, we've certainly been following this for some time now, since the poor MAX had its initial incidents. And by speed, we don't mean airline speed, we mean production speed. How fast can they build an airframe, and how many airframes can they get off the production line per month? And the long and the short of it is, the company applied too much pressure to the gas and exceeded a rate of production in which they could ensure their quality processes were being adhered to, with some catastrophic and some not so catastrophic results.
And here were some of the reasons that everybody knows that you know, that the airlines in general, as a lot of the other sectors of the economy worldwide, reduce people because nobody could go anywhere and participate in retail. And one of the big places then, well, the airlines, of course, fell smartly on their bottoms, and then the airlines were forced to reduce numbers of people, and we saw that in terms of a lot of early outs and retirements. Eric, you retired. Was the pandemic on when you retired? It was, right?
Yeah, I got a 21-month early out buyout, which I seized
Yeah.
for a variety of reasons, and I gladly took it.
Yeah.
And nobody, Boeing, the airframe manufacturers, or the airlines anticipated the speed of the recovery when everybody came back and said, we all want to go everywhere and we want to do it right now. And
Yeah.
there were consequences, and you just can't turn all this stuff around that fast.
And we talked about that quite a bit when I remember you talking about that, you know, doing some specials on training. You know, you can't just amp up in you know, lay people off and then 2 weeks later say, oh, King's X, we need you back. And and we weren't the only ones. I mean, the industry in general, but certainly the airline industry has some really highly technical, skilled people out there doing some specialized tasks. And as this slide points out, they reduce their workforce too. And who do they get rid of? They get rid of the top. The most expensive salaries are the people who've got the most experience, and that's where they can save the most money. So part of it we can understand and have empathy for, but the other end of it, when you know what's coming out, is they you know, they got just too focused in on efficiency and cutting cost and production, and so it weakened not only the experience out there, but it weakened the inspection processes, and safety was compromised in some cases. And then the production deadlines, they were getting, the airlines were just pounding them to get to bring airplanes online because they were selling seats, and they needed more equipment, and that's where it kind of has its roots then. And to date, Boeing's response, you probably saw it was this last week, I think, wasn't it? When they replaced this, within the last 2 weeks, they replaced the CEO and a bunch of people up there. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's right. All this is very recent, within the last week.
Yeah, and allegedly they made a commitment to implement a 20% increase in quality inspectors since 2019. And in our birds. It's in a birds of a feather group, right, Dieter? That somebody linked that the mentor pilot.
That was in another group that I found this one, but I can share it into the birds of a feather group.
Yeah, we wonder. There's a great site out there. We all were, the three of us were talking about before. He's an active pilot, and I can't remember exactly what airline he flies for, but he has a I think he has a couple of channels on YouTube, but one of them is called Mentor Pilot, and he produces some quality information. And the link that you're just going to put out there talks in great detail the specifics about the problems in general that Boeing is experiencing and the airline industry, as well as specifically the door problem for the fake door that blew out. And it's worth watching. I think I left with a sense of you know, normalcy, not so much panic and whatnot. So the FAA has got involved big time, and I like to give credit where credit's due, and I think our Congress deserves a lot of the credit for a lot of the some of the shortfalls in the inspection end of this, because they just didn't fund as the airline industry kept up way before the pandemic. They failed to provide the funds to increase the number of FAA inspectors out there. So you may have heard there was this role where you can have a Boeing employee or Airbus for that matter, in their planes, where they will be responsible for inspecting a component or a process, and then it has to be signed off by somebody or from the FAA or a representative. And so because of the cutbacks, this person would literally take off their Boeing hat, put on an FAA hat, and sign off as having inspected the work that they were just responsible for completing. And it's at face value, it sounds insane, and it is literally like the chicken or the fox guarding the henhouse. So anyway, so right now the FAA is gotten into bed with Boeing in a big way, and they give them 3 months to address these concerns and come up with some strategies and proposals. This is, Eric touched on this before, the discussion has been centering around the conflict between speed and quality in manufacturing, the need to produce more airplanes, and how it compromised safety by especially with the reduction in the experience level in the workforce, and the apparently some shoddy processes that have been the result of that. And it's certainly not the industry that I was familiar with in my career, and probably Eric as well. So how does this situation reflect on aerospace manufacturing as a whole? Well, I think Boeing for sure is going to have a lot of eyes looking at them, and the long-term implications would seem to be that they're going to have, at the very least, they're going to have a lot tighter scrutiny in the short term, and in the long term, if they don't get their act together, it's probably going to affect their overall survivability. And so just stay tuned, I guess, for what's coming down the road. I thought we'd talk about this a little bit. This is why
Ron, before we go on, there's a lot going on in the chat. Maybe not directly related. If you can just stop the share.
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit. So first of all, a couple of people wanted to know if Curti made it on the flight. So Eric, give us an update.
Oh man, that was just the happiest thing. So I was in phone contact with her at the gate the whole time prior, and she boarded early, got on and was able to talk to the pilots and one of the flight attendants, who then paid close attention to her, and she was a little jacked up, but not too bad. And I really seriously, with her level of stress that everybody who's asking saw, I was not feeling overly confident that she would stay on, but stay on she did. And it was a perfect weather day for her leg, Philadelphia down to Orlando, and I don't think they hit a bump. And my phone, I was thinking, well, she should be getting about there by now. My phone's ringing, and she was so excited. She was almost unintelligible. She was just flying around the inside of the concourse like a mad bat. She was so happy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it practically brought tears to my eyes. And her husband was so grateful. I said, well, Curti, you need to find a place to take a nap pretty soon, because the real crash, the adrenaline crash, is gonna come. And considering the amount of energy you burned in the last 48 hours, it's gonna be quite a wreck if you don't have a place that you can rack out. But she made it with spades and was just ecstatic to be there. So it was that was an all happy outcome, no negatives at all. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Those of you who don't know who that was, because she wasn't on the show last week, she was on our monthly coaching call. And so we want to share that. So she just happened to schedule a 15-minute coaching session with me the day of the coaching of our monthly coaching call or webinar. And I encouraged her to join us that night, and she did. And she was at the center of attention, and in a loving way. and she got just immeasurable support from everybody, and connected with Eric, and talked very candidly about where she was at. She had a few tears, and she was really worried about that. And Eric did as Eric does. He connected with her and talked with her the next day, which was the day of her flight. And she made it. She was just ecstatic with that. I just checked in with her today. She's coming back on Saturday, and I've asked her if she's comfortable to come on the show in the next week or so. So hopefully we'll get her on here, and she can talk about that experience. But I mean, I just think that shows the power of people when you get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you say, I'm going to do anything. And she just took a chance. I'm grateful that she came to the group last Thursday night. She got a couple of pointers, and Eric followed through and just gave her the sis boom ba rah 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 cheerleader approach, and that's what people need sometimes, to get on there. And now she's got a positive story to go into the future, whereas before all she had was negative ones. And that's why it's so important to do something and to keep going forward. Eric?
Despite the success of this outcome, and the other two guys are mental health professionals and I am not, but I've watched this often enough to realize that generally addressing this issue the night before you're going to get on the airplane doesn't work out much better than skipping a college class for the entire semester and then starting to prep for the final the night before. It's really not the best way to go after dealing with it, but I'm ecstatic that it worked out, and she is too.
And I did just post the link to our monthly group coaching webinar, because it is a different format. There's a different depth to it. It's we always have guided visualizations, as well as I guess Kurti, you could say, was in a hot seat of her own making, but it just organically unfolds. So if you have never participated or haven't in a while, and you know you have a flight coming up, it is truly a great place. And Don, I did see your question, but Don says it really takes courage to get on a plane when one is feeling absolute terror, even if much of that is fueled by anxiety that has nothing to do with flying. And I'll be, even more bold and say, for 99% of fearful flyers, the anxiety really ultimately doesn't have anything to do with flying. Now, there might have been an initial trigger, but ultimately, it's about something else, or as we here say, the pain in your brain is not about the plane, and that is so important to remember. It's almost like, because if that were true, it's almost like trying to change something on a screen. It's just not. We're not going to change the script of the movie that we're watching by, doing something on a screen. So, Sharon asks, do you send out reminders about the monthly coaching? I always miss it. Well, Sharon, if you do always, yes, the answer is yes. We send out emails every month, and we'll do so soon. I also posted the link here in the chat, so maybe you just bookmark that one. And we have replays, and for those of you that were on, the replay of last week is gonna be up with the meditations in the meditation section, so you can always come back, and we have, I think, 14 replays in there and 20 different meditations by now. So it's really a growing library of things that you can use. And the only,
I have a suggestion when you get the link, the reminder link to log in. What I do personally is I put it in my calendar and I mark it, and I give myself a reminder literally like an hour or half hour before it's set to go live. And then all I got to do depending on how you set your alerts, it'll pop up, or at the very least, you just click on your calendar, you go to the link, and bah,
and I will just say this one thing, because I don't want to mislead anybody. The replay is available, whether you just, get onto one of those monthly group coaching webinars. But if you're a member of the Fearless Flyer Club, then first of all, the webinar is free as part of the membership, and you have then access to our meditation library and to the replays. And Don asked a question, and I'm pretty sure he knows the answer or suspects the answer, but the question is, looking at turbulence forecast websites, how helpful is it? How accurate is it? And do you recommend it? So
you want me to take that, Ron, or do you want to answer it?
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, I think I did that for your two segments, Don, and evidently, according to you, I kind of missed how your ride would be a little bit, but I kind of used that as a quality checker in combination with everything else, particularly a satellite picture of where the weather systems are, a radar picture of where specific convection systems are, and the winds aloft, the current and forecast winds aloft, so I can see where there's going to be shearing, for lack of a better word, where the winds aloft will turn at altitude, or two systems are going to meet, even if there isn't weather. And then I'll look at a turbulence plot to see if I'm in the ballpark of what I think is what's displayed there. But being consumed over a turbulence forecast alone for a flight is probably not going to help you much. And it's a forecast, and it can be right or it can be wrong. And the pilots and the dispatchers can send the airplane another way other than the route anticipated by the people issuing turbulence plots for your flight.
Yeah, I'm looking on another screen for the upper air charts. First of all, one of the things is that is in the 201 course that we have. We have a quite a detailed bit about turbulence and looking at upper air charts. There's four. If you've ever seen weather balloons, they launch weather balloons all over the world every 6 hours. So there's 4 times a day when they launch these weather balloons. They have radar tracking devices, and they check how they move. So they plot the winds all the way up, and they have different levels that they plot it. And that's how they then look. If you've ever been a hiker and you've used a contour map, they have these constant elevations on there, and the tighter that the concentric circles get, the steeper the climb. So that's how they show where high pressure is, and how they show where low pressure is, and things like that. So the first thing, if you're going online and you're looking at one of those, let's say it was really timely, in 6 hours, it's going to be completely outdated, for one thing. And so it has marginal value. The thing that you want to know is that now, and we touched on this, maybe 2 months ago, where we showed you the pilots out there, they've all got laptops, or they've all got iPads, and most of the airlines are subscribing to these services now, which provide a very detailed legend of what the actual air is up there, way above and beyond the forecast the charts that we used to. That was the only access we had to that. So it is, but it's very inaccurate. Even the most accurate forecast you get is inaccurate, because it can vary in a minute if it's related to convective weather with thunderstorms in particular. The airplane that went through there 5 minutes ahead of you, you may get an entirely different ride depending on what happened in the wake of his passage. And then the other thing about that is go ahead, Eric.
I was just saying, but feel good, because the pilots are looking at the exact current situation before they go. They have a complete display of what's happening right then.
Yeah. And whenever, if you ever hear someone say, "Oh, I was on this flight and we flew through a thunderstorm," I guarantee you didn't fly through a thunderstorm. You flew through an area in which there were thunderstorms in the area there. We just don't do that. We do not fly through thunderstorms. It's insane. It would be insane to do that. And that's why, as Eric mentioned, that's why we have radar and we're taught to use it so that you can avoid the worst parts of weather systems and builds up out there. So yeah, that's what we do. I wanted to bring up real quick just a little bit about the Fearless Flyer Club. There's the link to compare. You can see we have the $37 a month, and it has these benefits on the side. You get the webinar course every month. You get we have a short course called Fear of Flying, Overcome Fear of Flying 101 video course, which normally sells for $97, and then you get past and current 201 content if you've ever been a member of the 201. If you upgrade to the first class level, at $57 a month, you get the same things that you get in the $37 a month. Oh, don't do that to me. There we go. And plus you get these other things. You get probably the biggest one is you get the Fearless Flight Kit, which is $197 value. That's included. So you essentially get that for free. And even if you decide not to be a member afterwards, you still keep the Fearless Flight Kit. So it's a great value there. We've got some other programs down here. Our mindfulness 101 course, our Flight Deck Confidential Volume 1 and 2 that Eric and I recorded some time ago, and our audio guide to turbulence and takeoff. And then what's turning out to be the better deal, and I think a lot of people we've had several people purchase this. It might be scary to look at this up there, lifetime VIP for $9.99. But if you do that, you get the course, the 201 course for free. You get 2 coaching, 60-minute coaching sessions with me. You get all the other things of mindfulness, putting mindfulness into practice 101. You get the Flight Deck Confidential series. You get the Expert's Guide to Turbulence and Takeoff, and the Fearless Flight Guide. And the best part is you get the coaching for the rest of your life for free. So you're a member of the coaching classes. Mm-hmm. And we have a multi-pay plan. So if you did all this stuff over here for $9.99, it would cost you over $2,000 to do that. And the disappointing thing is when we see people keep going. I mean, and that's not the disappointing part, but when they realize they could have done all this for much less expensive manner. So anyway,
Ron,
go ahead.
Somebody is asking if you can explain, and I'm gonna call it the Fearless Flight Kit, and within the Fearless Flight Kit, the harmonizer.
Okay.
Kate is asking what that is.
And can you get to the link for the video that I created for that to put that in there? I can get to it and put it in chat for you.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do that. So before we go, we'll put in there. I did a 25-minute video on exactly what the Fearless Flight Kit is, how to use it. But in essence, or summarized, it's a collection of 7 digital downloadable files. So you'll see when you see the product display, it's from the old days when we had CDs and DVDs for each one of the products. We don't do that anymore because that's passé. So, but it's there to show you what you get. So these digital downloadable files are videos, audios, and PDFs. And the foundation and the most popular part of the Fearless Flight Kit is an audio program called the Fearless Flight Harmonizer. It's a mix of 4 voice tracks with sound effects, music, and it's designed primarily to distract you. It uses bilateral stimulation, which is part of the process in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR therapy. and where you hear voices in one ear and then sometimes in the other ear. It's just a master at distracting you, which is really what you need to facilitate getting you on the airplane the quickest. You need somebody to drown out that little voice in your head, and the Fearless Flight Harmonizer does that. We also have a video version of that, so it's the same audio file, but it has a video composite view up there, and we have captioning on it as well. But I will find this in just a minute when I'll dump this off to Eric for a second, and I'll pull up the link, and we'll put it in the chat so that you can actually go and look at that, and you can also listen to a sample of the Fearless Flight Harmonizer. Okay. So thanks for asking about that. That's the most popular thing. That's the one product that I've had for almost 25 years now. And it still is very, very popular for everybody. It's the thing that you want to put in your back pocket to get you on the airplane. Like in Kirti's situation, it's ideal for somebody who's got to fly tomorrow. And I have done that many, many times, placed one of those with people who had to fly in the next day or so.
And the only other thing I want to mention about, so you already explained that you can get it as part of the monthly Fearless Flyer Club, the first class level. And Josh says best tool out there. So that is a really, really powerful way of rewiring your brain. And another powerful way, and I want to speak to that because Melissa is asking, she heard recently about EMDR sessions and EMDR therapy. That is
going to bring that back in that we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about changing your story, and we're going to talk about EMDR in detail again.
Katie, yes, you can buy the Fearless Flight Kit. We don't sell the harmonizer by itself, because that really would take away from the entire kit, the way we designed it for you. But yes, you can. It's a single purchase, and I will actually put the link in chat in a moment here. And John says, I love the harmonizer. It is true, and one of the cool things about it is I think we have a $1,000 challenge, Ron, right? We have this challenge of when somebody will give you $1,000 if you actually can get all the voices that are
if you can transcribe the harmonizer to 100% accuracy, we'll give you $1,000 for that. And the reason we say that it's because it's very, very complex, and it's very, very well thought out the way it's interwoven. And we have come up with our own process called tell us our branding.
NeuroSync.
NeuroSync. And we're starting to expand some of the visualizations using NeuroSync, where you get multiple tracks, and it's all based in the same kind of philosophy and techniques that you have in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, where you're mimicking the brain's natural process for reprocessing information. And I put the link in the chat there, Dieter.
So is it this monthly group coaching webinar where we're doing a deep dive into EMDR again? Or was that
EMDR, and I talked about we're going to talk about how you can use EMDR to look at your story and change your story, so you can change the way you think. Okay, so let me go back, and we'll wind up the slides here. And Eric and I, we lived with this since the late 80s. Well, this was a guy named James Reason. He was a British subject, and he came up with this Swiss cheese model of accident causation. And what it means is, if you look on the right side of the screen where it says hazards, and if you imagine this red arrow, there would be a hazard, a particular hazard in any industry, but we'll focus on aviation. And then imagine random slices of Swiss cheese where the holes in each each slice of cheese are placed in different places. So what it says is if these slices of Swiss cheese represent layers of protections or levels of possible failures, okay? And so what you do is you try to make it so that there are a number of barriers such that if you were to shoot a laser through these holes, it would be blocked before it got to the end where the accident ends up being acted out. So for example, and you can use this in light of what's going on at Boeing right now. You're talking about management deficiencies and inadequate controls and failures of people to properly maintain and build airplanes. And maybe some unsafe acts, and a lot of these part of the time it's human factors. And in any case, that's why, despite the fact that aviation is of some mistakes made at Boeing in this case, you can see the narrative I put up here. It takes a whole lot of holes in the cheese that have to line up to result in an accident. Few sectors of life have so many safeguards as aviation. And even fewer go to the lengths to analyze possible causes that aviation does following accidents and incidents. And when we were in the aviation industry, when we were developing this Swiss cheese model and putting safety management systems into place, one of the industries that came to us in relatively early on in our progress was the healthcare industry. And they were complaining, that, oh my gosh, we kill between 400 and 600,000 people every year due to patient error. And of course, you don't see that in the news because it's like traffic accidents. They happen one at a time and they don't garner the attention that an aircraft accident would do that. So anyway, so this is, I want to end on an overall positive note and an uptick. And I couldn't help there. I saw on my news feed today, the whole Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore that was struck by that cargo ship and destroyed it. And, somebody was speculating now, and this is what the media does. People in humanity, they say, should we have anticipated this catastrophe? Really? I mean, come on, how many years has that bridge been up there? And, and that's why sometimes, aviation is unfairly pulled out and being culpable because of the fact that it makes such a dramatic mark. But it's still the safest way to fly on the planet.
I couldn't resist, Ron. I Googled it. It's been open to traffic for 47 years.
Yeah. And the fact that, this was a one-time occurrence, it's tragic for sure. And there was lives lost. And it'll be huge disruption to the economy there. Not only there, but throughout the country because of the fact that there's a lot of offloading and a lot of port traffic there. But I put this slide together, it says, this is what it means to be human to me. We get to make choices every day. And some work out well, some don't have much of a consequence, and some don't work out so well. And one of the things that I really admired about Sully was his humility and how humble he was. And one of the things he pointed out was he had a lot of luck that he was a benefactor of that day. And sad as we might want to be about that, that's life is lucky. I mean, can you imagine those four workmen that were on that bridge at that time? Gosh, what talk about bummer planning and luck. So anyway, and every day, you pay your money, you take your chances. So I don't mean to be cynical about that, but life does have risk. But if it comes down to just looking at aviation and how safe it is, ain't no way safer to get from point A to point B, and that counts walking. And so would I get on a Boeing airplane? I would. I absolutely would. Even knowing that there are still probably flaws in the processes and there might even be mistakes out there. But when nothing gets elevated to the level of scrutiny that aviation does, and it happens quickly because it's such partly because it's so rare for something like that to happen. So I'm not going to be sorting through the flights and kayak looking for flights that don't have Boeing equipment. And sure as you do, you'll end up at the airplane and they will have swapped out your airplane for a Boeing, and you'll have to make another switch at the airport. So speaking about the next webinar, April 18th, coming up in just 3 short weeks. We would love to have as many of you show up as possible. And 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. And the subject or topic is going to be changing the way you think about flying, one story at a time. And we're going to go do a more of a deep dive into EMDR again. Partly because the one that I did in January was corrupted. We just got a bad recording from Zoom, and plus I got a lot of new information. So
yeah, there's definitely a few people here, Ron, today that want to know more about EMDR, and like I said, honestly the best way to do that is join us on the deep dive on April 18th. The link is in the chat already, and it's very empowering. You'll find it extremely empowering, and also not just for flying.
Yeah. As Dieter said before, the pain in your brain is not about the plane, and EMDR is probably one of the most, if not the most effective tool I've seen for what I call chronic flight anxiety. And that means that no matter what you do, you get to the airport and it just weighs you down, and it's hard to get over. So, and I've seen I've just really amped it up myself in the last 6 months, and I've seen a lot of real point success with people overcoming that level of anxiety that makes you either not want to get on or get off in before you push back. So yeah, so Google it, EMDR. Come armed with some questions, and we'll let you know. I'm working on an interview with someone who specializes in EMDR, and we may have that in the near future as well. But it's something that you need to at least look at. And if you look at any of the treatment for the vets, particularly people with going back to Vietnam and the warriors from Afghanistan and Iraq, you see the VA uses EMDR almost exclusively to help some of those folks. So, but there's something there for all of us. So, okay. Any parting words of wisdom, Dieter, Eric?
Well, wisdom, I'm not so sure, but reassurance that there are classes at the Phoenix Airport, and I already put it in chat. May 4th is the next free one-on-one class. We'll reveal the registration link next week on the show. If you are an email subscriber, you'll get the email probably a little earlier. And then
I want to quickly again, I want to just compliment Dieter. You know, I talked last week about what an integral part he plays in this. You know, if you've got an iPhone, they come out with a change, and you got to go through it, and you got to go into all your apps. You got to make sure everything works after that. And I can't tell you the level that happens when you've got a website. Some of somebody makes an operating system change. Oh my God. And none of this stuff works. And that's why we spend half of our time apologizing to people over things that we had no control over. And that's why the just registering for the classes, we got bumped up, and we couldn't, the site was down, or that part of it was down for April and March and April. And so May we'll be back underway in that. So, and then we decided we're going to definitely, Dieter built a special page for people who want to register for this Sunday, to get people at least an option to do that if you were waiting on the class. But the class is coming, as Dieter said, May 4th. So thanks, Dieter, once again.
And quick question to both of you from John. Oh, that's so sweet, Melissa. Thank you. She said, "Oh, you're so awesome." I appreciate that. But John's question was interesting, which only because he says, which plane do you want to fly on that you have not? And and then, or even if you have, which one's your favorite? I definitely have mine. Like
You got
commercial.
you got any that you haven't flown on, Eric? I mean, major, mainline airplanes?
I haven't been on a 7-8 yet.
Okay, 787.
Kind of
Really?
personal
Yeah.
tragedy. Yeah.
I was
And I
gonna
had
say
not-
that's my favorite.
Yeah, me too. And I had not until the summer before last, and then I had a couple flights on them. I love the 787. It's so cool. And don't get all caught up in what we love, because they all have the same underneath scrutiny and maintenance and compliance issues. What I loved about the 787, number one, I was in premium class, so I had this spacious place to sit in there. And the big windows, they build it. They use composite materials, graphite basically, built out of pencil lead, if you can imagine that. And so it's extremely strong. And one of the things they could do then, they could make larger windows, and they have this super high tech dimming thing on the window.
Where you just touch
a rheostat. You could change the tint on it and all that. It's a nice airplane, a fantastic airplane, and that would be my favorite. But the 777, I've never been. I have not been on an A380, the big wide body for Airbus. But
and the other one that I really love is the 350 Neo. That thing is
pretty impressive airplane.
I wish there were more things.
I asked my friend, one of my friends because American was going to take delivery of those, and they didn't, and they sent him off to school with one of the other senior Czech airmen to get type-rated on the thing so they could start to put together how their training program was going to be. And I said, hey, Tom, what's the coolest thing the A350 does? And we've told you guys, and he answered immediately, we've told you guys about how we have a thing called a traffic collision and avoidance system, a TCAS, which we call the fish finder, and instructs us to move if there's another airplane in our airspace. And my friend Tom goes, on the 350, if the fish finder detects a threat starting to come towards the inner envelope where you're going to have to react, it gives the pilots 5 seconds. And then says, oh, you guys are asleep? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And it pulls the throttle to idle, rolls the airplane over in a big dive, and then recovers out of the bottom of the dive all the time while it's either squawking emergency and or radio failure to ATC. So ATC doesn't go, what's wrong with those guys? The Airbus goes, oh, don't worry, I'm talking to them too. So the thing peels off in this big dive and goes down about 10,000 feet. And I don't know if it ever enunciates, hey, are you guys awake yet? But it's dropped several thousand feet off the tracks and away from whatever the threat was, all by itself on autopilot.
So thanks for joining us this week. We'll leave you with that and Eric's hyperbole. Eric, tell him that there was a little bit of hyperbole in that. It's not quite that bad. Okay.
My friend.
See you next week.
That's our cliffhanger.
Eric will be back and taking your questions next week regarding that expedition. All right. What the captain means is it takes assertive action. It removes the pilot from the chain of activity, and it keeps you safe. All right. Cool. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Steve.
Good night, everybody.
We'll see you next week, and we'll try to come up with some other ways to terrorize you. Remember, you'll either get better or you'll get worse, but you won't stay the same. So thanks for watching us this week, and I can't wait to come back next week and answer the question.